Arise, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here. We're not back. This is the first time, baby. This is the first episode of our new Vaesen campaign called The Witching Hour, set in our, unMadeGaming cinematic universe in Rhode Island, near the town of New Arkham in the homebrew HQ Covencrest Manor, which will be coming to Drive-Thru RPG soon. So be on the lookout for that. That being said, if you guys like what we do here and you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon, link in the description down below. While you're down there clicking on that link, make sure you click on the Discord link, join us in the Discord, be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. And as always, in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see the corruption bar. That bar serves two purposes. One is when that bar fills, I unleash horrible eldritch terror on my players. The players, not the characters, to be fair. And two, every single dollar that goes into that bar goes back to these wonderful, amazing players that you see here before you. That being said, let's jump right in. The screen fades into a dark, stormy night. The camera pans across a tumultuous sea, waves crashing wildly against jagged rocks lining the coast of New Arkham. A lone lighthouse stands defiant against the storm, a silent sentinel overlooking the black waters. However, its beam flickers erratically, plunging the coast into alternating patches of deep shadow and ghostly white light. A faint fog hangs heavy in the air, distorting the beam as it struggles to break through. The camera shifts to a small vessel navigating these treacherous waters, a humble fishing boat named the Abigail's Bounty. The deck is slick with rain, the crew, shadows moving frantically, struggle to control the rigging. The camera focuses on the captain, a middle-aged man with deep lines of worry etched across his face. He grips the wheel tightly, knuckles white, sweat mixing with the rain as he peers desperately towards the erratic flashes of the lighthouse. He mutters curses under his breath, trying to discern the path to safety. Damn that light. It's mad, I tell you, mad! The storm swallows his voice, thunder echoing as if mocking his fear. The camera pulls in closer, his eyes darting wildly from the lighthouse to the sea, which churns violently as if something ancient and malevolent stirs beneath the surface. The boat lurches to the side, nearly dashed upon the sharp rocks hidden below the dark waters. Crew members shout warnings, and ropes snap under the pressure of the wind. The captain fights to steady the vessel, but his breath quickens. A sound of panic catches his throat. As the boat sways, coming perilously close to destruction, the lighthouse beam stabilizes, just for a moment, illuminating a narrow path through the chaos of the sea. The captain seizes the opportunity, steering hard to port. With a guttural shout, he maneuvers the ship through the gap, the hull scraping rocks just beneath the surface, a narrow escape. The lighthouse's beam falters once more, plunging the coast back into darkness. The camera cuts from the chaos of the sea to a silent overlook high above the cliffs, which Covencrest Manor sits. The structure looms dark and ancient, its silhouette framed by the crackling storm clouds above. Lightning briefly illuminates the manor's intricate stonework, revealing creeping ivy and weathered gargoyles that cling to the walls like sentinels watching the night. The trees surrounding the manor sway like shadows, dancing in the wind, as if whispering secrets only they know. The camera begins to glide across the grounds, moving towards one of the tall arched windows. As it approaches, the faint glow of candlelight becomes visible, flickering with life against the storm's oppression. With seamless fluidity, the camera passes through the window's glass as if it weren't there, revealing the warmth within. A study, grand but cluttered with papers and arcane symbols. The rain's muffled patter against the window is drowned out by the quiet crackle of a nearby hearth. At a solid, well-crafted oak desk sits Niles, the butler of Covencrest Manor. He is a man of stern, angular features, his face lined with years of service and secrets, with gray, neatly combed hair, a thin frame, and sharp, discerning eyes. Niles moves with a deliberate precision that belies his age. His attire is formal, every inch immaculate, a tailored black coat, crisp white shirt, and a silver pocket watch dangling from his vest, a constant companion. The camera closes in on his hands as he dips a quill into an inkpot, the feather gleaming in the warm candlelight. He writes swiftly, yet with care, as if each word carries weight. A faint hint of a smile, almost imperceptible, crosses his lips as he finishes each letter. The words written in a graceful, flowing script. One by one, he seals each missive with hot red wax, pressing the seal, a unicursal hexagram, into the liquid, leaving behind its indelible mark. The letters are addressed to Virginia Dalloway, Enzo, Winifred Blalock, and Harold Reuben Barker. Niles stacks the letters neatly, his eyes lingering on each name as if seeing their faces before him. Time has come for each of you. The camera pulls back, revealing the full expanse of the study. The flickering flames of the hearth cast dancing shadows across the walls, creating shapes that seem almost alive, perhaps mere tricks of the light, or perhaps something more. The scene lingers for a moment, the storm raging outside, Niles' unwavering focus within, and then fades to black. On this stormy evening, who do we see first, and where do we see them?
The camera fades in at the base of a stone stairway. The floor is very nice polished slate and hardwood, a dark mahogany sort. The perspective winds up the staircase that sits beside an octagonal tower. And once it reaches the top floor, it moves into a room where a woman sits. She is old for the time period, about 50. Her hair is still mostly red, but there are strands of gray here and there. She has an eye patch which rests over her left eye, and just the hint of something that resembles a scar, but the skin within the fold looks blackened and decayed. She sits upright in a chair, reading from a very worn and frayed book. The pages are nearly falling out, and the spine is covered in something dark, possibly stained with some sort of liquid, perhaps blood. It's hard to be sure. But as she reads, her face is unmoving. Only her eyes move from side to side, until eventually she reaches down and lifts a teacup and takes a sip. Well, I do believe that's quite enough reading tonight. And she sets down the worn book and moves over to her desk and notices, for the first time, a different stack of papers. She picks them up and begins reading through them. Her face is still unmoving. Her back is rigid. But there's something of an undercurrent in an emotional shift within her as she reads the pages. And slowly, she pulls one up and holds it over a candle and watches as it burns. And she whispers a name. Reginald. And the camera fades.
Just before the camera fades, as you burn this piece of paper and whisper this name to forces unknown, there's a knock, a light rap on your door.
Who is it?
You get no response.
She cautiously gets up and begins to move to the door. And when she reaches it, places her ear against it and listens.
You hear the raging storm outside.
She crosses back over to her desk and picks up a letter opener, tucks it behind her back, and opens the door.
You see a small boy, you think, although hard to tell. You do see a mess of matty, a fringe of black hair tucked underneath a flat cap. You see they're probably between the ages of 10 and 12, soaked to the bone. You see that they are wearing a heavy coat far too large for their small frame. You see that what would have made for the wax coating on the outside of this is sort of, or the oil coating, is beating off as much water as it can, but the water is coming down in sheets. You can see that his boots are a little worn, and he does hold out a small, sputtering lantern. And from underneath his scarf, he pulls out a letter, doing his best to like step in under whatever makes for your awning, and hand you this letter to try to attempt to not get it as wet as possible.
He is standing on a hexagonal porch that has very thin columns around it, a very flat surface as there is a balcony above it. And Wilhelmina looks down at him. Child, don't you have enough sense to get out of the cold?
Oh, I got missives to deliver, ma'am. Yours is one of them, and I have a few more in me tonight. So, if you don't mind.
Of course. And she takes the letter and reaches into a pocket and pulls out a few pennies and hands them to him.
Oh, I wasn't expecting a tip. And he takes that and sort of stuffs it into one of the many coats. And you see him sort of like fluff the jacket out to remove excess water. He turns up the collar again and he says, "Good night to you, ma'am." And he toddles off, leaving you alone with letter.
She'll watch him for a moment and then she goes back in and closes the door and pulls the letter opener from behind her back and slices the letter open.
Okay. We fade from there to who's next?
I'll go. So Harold would be in a like a lower income poverty area, kind of doing a house call. He's kind of seen in what looks like the dining area, right? Because there's no like separate areas. It's more of like just a dining area with a body on top, with a kind of a tarp on top of it. And Harold, his bags next to him on the floor, utensils and tools just all over the place, using wires as little hanging devices, and blood on his kind of apron and gloves. Only one glove though. The other one's just kind of hanging there, and the other one's kind of dripped in what looked like he was just doing post surgery. And Harold's kind of just standing there, kind of, scruffing his chin, just kind of looking at the body and just kind of thinking to himself, closely looking at the body. You can see it's pretty fucked up. They got pretty mutilated. There's a couple of, you guys can use your imagination. It's fucked up, all right? It's got blood everywhere. And Harold's kind of just staring at it. He's just like, yeah, I think he's dead. And he kind of turns to the body, the family. There's a woman and a child, and they're kind of just like weeping. And he just kind of looks at them and goes, "What was wrong with him again?"
Just so the audience knows, how old is Harold?
Oh, Harold's however you want him to be, but he's a little scruff. He's got a little bit of gray. Sometimes he says he's like 60. Sometimes he says he's 30. Sometimes he says letters. He doesn't really know, but from most people, you can kind of gauge he's around 65 to 70 to 80 to 30 to 70 to 65.
Yeah, so he's in his general 30 to 100 range.
Yeah, relax, no, it's a little too much. Maybe bring it back a little bit. Like, 75 is what I say, but sure.
You see a mousy, probably early 20s, similarly dressed in a coat, like an overcoat, a white overcoat. Both of her gloves are still on, and she looks up where she is furiously scribbling notes on both pages of a journal. And she looks to you and says, "I'm sorry, sir. What? He's dead, sir."
Right, that's what I said. What caused it? What happened? Why did he die?
Oh, shipwreck.
Shipwreck?
Dashed on the rocks at the cliffs.
Oh, Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I probably should not have worked on his stomach like that, but well, he was dead before, right? Like what am I here again? What did you need me to do?
He was dead when he came in, sir. It's you're the resident medical officer tonight. I didn't need you, sir. You.
Well, I'm glad I did a great job. He's dead. Move on. Let's go on. What's the next what's what? What? Yeah.
What if
Did
you
I do my job?
What if you take a seat, Dr. Rubenbarker?
Oh, right. The Herald, please. No, Doctor's my father's name. Okay. And he's gonna like
Sorry, your father's
look
name
for
is
a
Doctor?
Is that what you said?
That's what you said.
No, my name's Harold. You are?
Colette.
Colette, right. Okay, great. Chair, huh? And he's like, just like, he kind of like aimlessly just goes, looks around, like, what?
I'll get you a chair. And
Okay.
she gets out of her chair, and you see her leave. A few moments, she comes back, sort of carrying a chair, and she says, "Sir, were you expecting anyone?"
And he kind of points to the body.
No, the living, sir. A young boy
Oh,
dropped this off for you, by name.
oh boy, I don't, okay. And he kind of like reaches out and takes a look at it. You said a young boy dropped
Yeah,
this off?
dropped it off, soaking wet in the storm. He said, Dr. Harold Rubenbarker, and you're the only one I know, apart
Henry,
from.
please. Henry. I've told you multiple times, Clementine, it's Henry, okay?
Colette.
What? All right,
My
just
name is.
go clean tools. Let me read this. I'd like to read in peace. Go.
Okay. And you see her confusedly head off to clean said tools. And as you sit down to read, we cut to the next player. Who do we see next, and where do we see them?
Zero is very tall, about 6'8". He is of Italian descent. He is a dock worker, and he is currently stumbling home in the night from a bar where he spent most of his money, because you work hard, you play hard, and he knows he's not going to live forever. He's kind of pockmarked with various scars from many fights he's been into. When he first moved to town, he got into more fights. Once people realized that they were going to get their ass whooped, they stopped fighting, and it's actually kind of made him sad, because he's sometimes, when he's stumbling home, he wants to get into a brawl, get some of that energy out. And he stumbles back home, half a bottle empty in his hand, back to his little upstairs, one room, a pot in the corner to piss in. It's essentially a sack of straw to sleep on. Looks out his tiny ass little window over the city streets and sits down, rolls up a cigarette, smokes, and keeps sucking on that bottle until he feels like he's going to pass out.
Just to be clear, you're inside your house as this is happening, or outside?
He's stumbling home.
Okay.
Then he made it back.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if you actually made it into the house before you started drinking heavily, or continuing to drink heavily, as it were. You hear a little rap on your door, and you hear a woman's voice that says, "Mr. Enzo, Mr. Enzo."
Climbs to his feet, barely making it. Stumbles over to the door, opens it up. It's a little late. What do you need?
You see that this is the landlady that sort of runs this establishment here, where you're in this one bedroom. There is a boy at your your request. He says you by name, sir. You are muted, or it's not coming through.
Or it's cutting out again.
It's cutting out again.
What does he want?
He says that he has a message for you. Is this a pretty late hour?
Send him up.
I will do so. And she turns, looking a little exasperated and world weary, and she heads downstairs. A moment or so later, you hear the heavy footfalls of boots up the stairs as you see this young boy, apparently, who is like between the ages of 10 and 12, soaking wet. You see a trail of water behind him. Nothing fits right on this boy. And he reaches in underneath his red scarf, pulls out a missive, and he says, "Sir, this is for you."
Thanks, kid. I ain't got nothing to tip you with here. And he gives him the rest of the bottle. Don't drink it all too fast.
"Oh, this will keep me warm tonight, sir." And he tucks it into his pocket, and he turns and heads away. And as we see Enzo contemplating this letter at an ungodly hour at night, where do we finally see our last character?
So you see, as the camera pans in, a small, ramshackle little cabin nestled in a bunch of trees. And sitting outside that cabin under a small porch is Virginia. She is sitting in a rocking chair with her feet up, using her lap as a surface to draw in a sketchbook. You can tell by the way she's sitting, she's kind of lanky, tall. She's got bright red hair. And she's just feverishly sketching in this book. There's a candle going, kind of blowing in the wind, and it's getting wet as the rain comes in, but it doesn't seem to bother her much. She's just so focused on what she's doing. And then suddenly she stops. She brushes a hand over her neck, and as she does, you can see that there are scars stretched across her neck. And she just kind of sits there a moment and stares at what she's drawing. Feeling satisfied, she gets up from her rocking chair and she heads on in. And as she does, you can see a room littered with various drawings and newspaper clippings pinned to the walls of this tiny little cabin that has maybe a table, a chair, and a stone fireplace. She goes over to one of the walls that's got a little bit less pinned to them than the rest of them, and she tears out this piece of paper, sticks it to the wall, and just kind of nods. And as you can see, it's a picture of a small boy, and next to that picture is a clipping of an obituary for the small boy. She then walks over to the little table by her room, and as she does, she picks up a ribbon, wraps it around her neck, and stares into the mirror, almost like she's looking not quite at herself, but something behind her, seemingly something, but there's nothing there. And she says in a soft whisper, "Well, at least he's at peace now." And she continues to get ready for the night.
Again, at this ungodly hour, you hear a little bit more than gentle of a tap on your door.
Yes.
Letter for you, ma'am.
She goes over to the door and opens it.
There is a second when you open the door where the picture you just put on your wall sort of superimposes over this boy. And for a second, you're not sure if you're seeing that person again until he reaches into his coat and pulls out a piece of parchment, sort of waves it around. Ma'am, this is for you.
Her breath catches a little as she stares at him, not quite understanding if it's him or the boy she just drew, and absentmindedly takes the letter, not saying anything to him.
Have a good night, ma'am.
And she shuts the door.
And he's standing there as the door sort of closes in his face. And we see this little boy head off into the forest outside of the general region of southern Rhode Island as he makes his way back to parts unknown. We do a Steven Soderbergh cut where we see all four of you on the camera at once as you all surreptitiously open your letters and read them, read the context of them, to which all of you may read at your own pace, but I'll go ahead and read aloud to the class. October 3rd, 18-something. To the esteemed members of the Society, I trust this letter finds you well. Despite the harrowing times in which we live, I must regrettably intrude upon your affairs to bring to your attention a matter of utmost urgency. A matter that falls directly within our purview and demands swift investigation. The night's storm has brought with it an ill omen. The lighthouse of New Arkham, which stands as a guide to ships navigating the treacherous coastline, has begun to act unpredictably. Erratic flashes, whispers among the wind, and an unholy glow have plagued its beam. Those who have come close speak of strange figures moving within the light, phantoms unseen by mortal eyes. Just last night, a vessel nearly shattered upon the rocks, its captain speaking of a malicious force guiding the waters to consume his ship. What concerns us most, however, are the rumors of a presence that lingers on the cliffs where the lighthouse stands. It is said this entity wanders by night, its spectral lantern a harbinger of ruin for all who see it. I need not remind you of the dangers that such an apparition might pose, nor the damage its influence may already have wrought upon the delicate balance between our world and theirs. The details remain shrouded in mystery, but we have reason to suspect that this phenomenon is no isolated incident. The locals whisper of drowned spirits and a curse stretching back generations, a curse that seems to have awakened with newfound fury. Your skills are required to discern the truth behind these happenings, and if necessary, to vanquish whatever presence has taken hold of the lighthouse. Please make your way to Covencrest Manor at your earliest convenience. I shall provide you with more information upon your arrival. There is little time to spare, and it is my deepest hope that the Society may shed light upon the darkness before it consumes us all. In service to the unseen, Niles Lane, Covencrest Manor. Winifred, as you read this, what are your thoughts and feelings?
Initially, I'm a bit wary. The happenstance that this should fall the same night as a storm of this nature. Possibly coincidental, more than likely not. Coincidences don't often happen in our line of work. He did say time is of the essence, however. So Winifred walks upstairs back to her room, picks up a stack of books, more of those rough-hewn journals, and puts them into a bag. She also gathers a sheaf of papers and a slide rule, picks up her own small journal and a very unique writing utensil. She packs everything up, wanders over, writes a quick note for her friends, who are the actual owners of the home, telling them that she is going on a little sojourn and she will catch up with them later. She wraps a heavy cloak around herself and heads out into the night on her way to Covencrest Manor.
Fantastic. We see a brief montage of Winifred's travel. No one paid too close attention. As a carriage takes you from, I believe, you are staying in Newport. A carriage takes you to the edge of the water, where a small boat takes you from Newport around Jamestown and towards the southern coast of Rhode Island. How that boy got there so quickly...
She is actually in Providence.
Oh, you're in Providence. I apologize.
Yes, overlooking
even better. A carriage still takes you about an hour journey south down the coast towards New Arkham. From Miss Winifred, we transition over to Harold. You also read this letter. What are your thoughts and feelings about the goings-on?
He had to wake himself up a little bit, but like halfway reading, he kind of grasped a little bit and then realized the kind of the interest. He feels a surge of joy and excitement And as he kind of scurries his little feet around the floorboard and starts just rummaging all over his tools, some bloody, some not. He just kind of takes the glove. It's like almost of a pet, like a hectic, chaotic, frantic panic of trying to leave as if he's not even supposed to be there. So he's just like muttering to himself. He's just like, "Oh, I gotta look at the lighthouse. I need this tool. What is this? This is a finger. I don't need this." And he's like just roaming around, just like grabbing whatever he can and like grabbing his notebooks. And he's just kind of like zigzagging around. It sounds proactive, but in reality, if you take a step back and you just look at what he's doing, he's actually just picking stuff up and putting it back down, just back and forth, up until he kind of starts winding. He's like, "Okay, I think I'm ready." And then he kind of like grabs his bag that he hadn't touched at all and is still exactly as is, leaves a mess in wherever he is, and kind of turns around and kind of like prepares to leave. Doesn't say a single word to um Cloverfield or her name, their name was, and then kind of just like shouts, "I'm off! Don't touch the body. I will fix it when I get back." And then he kind of like, just kind of walks off, not even realizing where he's going, until he kind of stops in the middle of the street, realizing, "Where am I going?" And he stays there for about like 10 minutes.
As you stand in the pouring rain for 10 minutes, I imagine under some awning or some kind.
Maybe, who knows?
Eventually, a stagecoach arrives and brings you, perhaps your assistant, Colette, Corvette, whatever you call her.
Corvette, that's so good.
Perhaps she has called you a stagecoach, and we see Harold also in Providence, coming out of Brown University, trundle along the coast of Rhode Island towards Covencrest Manor. From Harold, we transition to Enzo, atop his stairs, reading his letter. Enzo, what are your thoughts and feelings about this letter?
Going to read the letter and then promptly pass out, wake up the next morning, read the letter again, and realize that he actually got a letter. And feels good about the fact that he's actually going to get out there and do something a little more than just moving boxes around or cutting ice. So, as is his typical fashion, when he is called off to do other things, he will inform his landlady that he's not going to be there for a while. He'll inform whoever he happens to be working for that he's not going to be there for a while. And then he packs a light lunch and starts walking.
Perhaps the shortest trip. Enzo is in New Arkham, near the docks, who just has to walk up the street. Covencrest Manor overlooks the city on top of the cliffs, so just a short walk for Enzo. And we cut from Enzo to Virginia Dalloway. What are you feeling and thinking as you read this?
She kind of lets out a heavy sigh. Not quite excited, but still willing. She looks over or through the room that she's in, almost with a longing, as if she wants to stay, but she knows that this is important work. And with that, she picks up her bag from underneath the little table that she has. It's already pre-packed, as this is not her first adventure here. But before she goes to exit her home, she goes over to her room and she picks up a picture of a man. And while looking at it, she rubs her thumb over it and says, "Well, Charles, it looks like we've got another one." And she puts it in her bag and makes her way out the door.
Now, Miss Dalloway lives in a nondescript wooded location. How far do you think she lives from New Arkham?
I would say she doesn't live too far, probably farther than walking distance.
Okay.
Because she is kind of out there in the outskirts, she'd have to walk to town, get a carriage, and then walk and ride there.
Okay. So we see this montage, and everyone arrives surreptitiously in around the same time, except for Enzo, who arrives shortly before lunch. You all approach, and you see the iron-gated manor. You see the gates are strewn open. There are no one working in the yard. There's no one tending to anything, and everything looks a little overgrown. If you would imagine what a haunted house may look like, or a haunted mansion may look like, this is very much befitting of that. You've been here before. You have acquainted yourself in some capacity with the house, with the people that work in and out of it, and you can count yourself among them. You know that the only permanent resident here at Covencrest Manor is Niles Lane, who has always introduced himself and performed the duties of a butler. And if you ask him otherwise, that's all he'll say. Waiting for the three of you at the door is Niles Lane in his nicely pressed suit, looking everything the way a butling gentleman should. And he sort of bows his head and motions towards the door that is partly open, and he says, "This way."
I will follow.
Harold's gonna scrabble through him and just be like, "This place gone to shit."
Mr.
And Virginia will
Rubenbacher.
follow.
And he motions three of you in, and you see a what you can imagine to have at once been a grand entryway. There's a large staircase up the center. To your left is a sitting room, a parlor. To your right is a dining room. In the rear of the house is a large kitchen, which you imagine would have originally housed a large staff. But anyone familiar with the area, or anyone who has delved into the histories, knows that great tragedy struck Covencrest Manor, some 100-ish years ago, and no one has lived there since. In recent years, the society has sort of picked up the check, as it were, and begun to bring back some life here. They're using it as their de facto headquarters, for once they did way back in the day. They are starting to rebuild the society, as it were, and the four of you are members of that. As Niles shows you to the sitting room, he sort of buttles off, and you hear the jangling of a tea tray as he presents you with a tray full of tea. As some time passes, eventually, as he placates you with teas and cakes and small finger sandwiches, all delicious, of course, Enzo arrives and is also introduced to the group. Now, the four of you know each other to some degree and may or may not have worked together, and in some capacity, whether professional or not, that is entirely up to you to decide. But as Niles is off buttling around the house, doing whatever that mysterious butler does, what are the four of you doing? Each of you has a letter. Each of you is in the sitting room. You see that there's a grand globe in the sitting room. There's still some cobwebs in certain places that Niles hasn't gotten to. There's a small bookshelf overlooking on either side of the large window. There's a writing desk here, a crackling fire in the hearth. In one of the many fireplaces here in the manor. But the four of you are alone and together for the first time. What are the four of you doing?
They'd probably stumble in and... Oh, sorry, go for it.
Miss Dalloway, Mr. Enzo, Dr. Rubenbacher.
Ah, it's silly. Call me Henry Harold. Henry.
No,
Okay. All right. Still the same. Okay. All right.
Have you killed anyone today?
I just left a body that wasn't killed by me, but in terms was killed in my area. So in context of region, no.
Were they alive when they entered your care?
Virginia, how have you been? You look fantastic.
Hello, Harold. How are you? It's been-
Henry, come
Oh,
on now.
Henry today. Understood. It's been quite some time.
Yes, let me look at you. You feeling better? Everything's good? Any kind of cool things happening that you want to share or tell me or give me any, cool
Well,
stuff?
I am alive.
Okay.
Thanks
that's
to
good.
you, surprisingly. So we're doing pretty good.
All right.
It's a surprise.
I don't know if I like that tone. And I'm gonna turn towards Enzo and be like, Enzo, last time I saw you, you were beat up. How you doing?
Much better. Thanks to you, actually.
Oh,
Good to see you, Miss Winifred, Miss Virginia.
I turn back to Winifred. Look at that. 2 people that I helped and didn't kill. Oh my goodness.
Out of how many?
I'm gonna get some tea. And I'm gonna like walk
good,
towards get like tea and like little finger sandwich and like aggressively like distract myself. Like, I'm just start eating.
Yes, there is a lovely 3-tiered trivet tray full of finger sandwiches, some clotted cream on a biscuit, or
Some classy shit right
some
there.
Some classy shit. Niles doesn't fuck around, as it were. The tea is, of course, Darjeeling.
For long.
Yes, the tea is there. The fireplace is roaring, and without a sound, you see that Niles has reappeared in one of the 2 doorways leading into this area, and he says,
Holy shit! I get scared by him.
"Excuse me, Mr. Rubenbacher. It appears as though you have all received your letters."
Yes, Mr. Lane.
Oh shit!
I
I
believe
run
Don't
towards my bag.
suppose you know anything about this matter?
I do, as luck would have it. One thing, the lighthouse keeper, one Mr. Elijah Pruitt, missing, status unknown. He seems to have vanished the night before last, leaving the lighthouse abandoned.
What was Elijah's family name?
Pruitt.
Thank you. And she's making notes in her small journal.
Those closest to him have indicated that Elijah had been acting a bit odd, rambling about the light betraying him and hearing voices.
Did the voices say anything to him?
Not as far as his closest have noted. But strangely enough, the mooring in the lighthouse, and you would all know that the lighthouse is typically on an island, his boat is still there.
And he is missing.
Correct.
Is his weather attire still in the lighthouse, or is it also gone?
It is also gone.
Do we know if he was simply swept to sea by the waves?
Unfortunately, we don't, and no body has been recovered.
Something?
Say that again?
Something?
No, you cut out again. We only heard the word something.
Maybe he was eaten by something?
There we go. Eaten by what, Mr. Enzo?
Have you seen anything down at the docks, Mr. Enzo, to give you this idea? Heard anything, perhaps?
Civic. Keeps cutting out. I hate this thing.
Try holding the button for like a second or two before you talk.
Oh yeah, are you using push to talk or are you just talking?
Just talking. There's no
Okay.
pushing.
We'll figure it out.
I can
Enzo,
help you out afterwards.
Enzo, you know what? You can make me the first roll of the evening to see if perhaps you have heard anything, being someone who frequents the docks. Go ahead and give me an investigation check. Zero. Perfect. As a reminder for the Free League systems, there is always a way to re-roll certain things. In this game, you can take a condition and re-roll at the cost for that condition. You haven't heard anything, Enzo, outside of what you see in the letter. That, like, people are talking about strange lights flickering in the lighthouse. You've bumped into these rumors every once in a while, or overheard them in a semi-conscious state, or a mostly inebriated state in the bar, and you've sort of chalked it up to like sailor hearsay, right? Like, there's always some sort of weird tale coming off of these ships, and you never paid any stock to it until you got this letter. So nothing specific jumps to mind.
Just rumors of rumors.
What of the interior, as Harold says as he's still stuffing his mouth, was it left a mess, or how was it organized? Blood, parts, break-in? Come on, details.
We haven't set anyone to check. In fact, Mr. Rubenbacher, that is why we have called you.
Gotta go to a lighthouse. Claustrophobic.
A doctor as talented as yourself would be able to suss out any details.
You're right there, kiddo. I am talented.
There is some discrepancy between who is older, Harold or Niles. No one can be sure.
What does Niles look like?
I will happily show you what Niles looks like.
We get a picture?
I have a picture of Niles that only you get to see because I didn't set anything up for the audience. So audience, figure it out, man.
Use your imagination.
Use your imagination. I described him. Personnel, Niles Lane, show to players.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I got him beat. You crazy? I got him beat. That guy's a young sprout. That's what that is. I'm like an oak tree compared to him.
For the audience's benefit, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a young spry thing.
Hold on, let me throw a picture in there.
Yeah, audience, I'm lying to you.
I think you guys should be able to click on that link. Hopefully. Cool.
I did see someone saying something in chat about centering Roll20.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got
Come on,
it.
Mike, fix it.
I got it. It's amateur hour here.
No, it's not. I'm not running it.
Oh my God.
Alrighty. Yeah, so he looks at you. He basically tells you that that's kind of your job, right?
Ah.
In a more respectful butler kind of way. You said, has anyone gone to take a look? And he's like, well, as luck would have it.
Funny you mention.
Yeah. I
Was
thought
there,
someone should take a look as well.
Is there any other news about like regional areas near the lighthouse of any kind of suspicious activities, or is it just this rinky-dinky little flashlight in the cliffs?
That is all I've heard so far. Strange lights flashing above the cliffs. Doesn't resemble any natural phenomenon that we are aware of. Perhaps they could be signals. We're not entirely sure. And then
Will-o-wisps.
Will-o-wisps. Fishermen in coastal villages have been reporting seeing ghostly figures around the lighthouse. An image of a woman, an image of a man, each carrying lanterns. Strange melodies. All included in the letter, of course.
Did he say what kind of melodies?
Haunting melodies.
Oh, thank you. Okay, all right. I
They-
thought they'd be doing a sea shanty or something.
Nope.
Are they actual words in the melodies, or is it just tones?
It appears to be just the tones carried on the wind.
Oh, understood.
This is actually me not remembering, but did they in the letter? Did it say Elijah had any family? Or
The letter
anything?
didn't mention Elijah at all.
Okay. What's his name? Fuck. Niles. So
Niles.
did does Elijah have any family or anyone that checks up on him, or you know, anything?
He did,
Oh,
but
okay.
his wife has since passed, and his son was drafted
Do we know the status of
or
the son?
conscripted. Yeah, you can know the status based on the way that Niles is speaking about the son. Likely no longer with us.
Gotcha.
I mean, by the sounds of it, this poor man didn't have much to live for,
I didn't know the man
being
myself, but perhaps.
being in a lonely place such as Lighthouse could make a man go crazy.
Who does know him? Who did know him?
Well, the function of the lighthouse was rather unnecessary during the day, and he would take his sojourns to town and pick up groceries and anything he might need for the island. The local grocer. I don't know that anyone was incredibly close to him, but as close as you can be for a sole man living out on an island. He did frequent a few of the taverns at the docks. Grocer, maybe some of the shipyards.
Was he there year round, or did he alternate as they do in some lighthouses?
As far as I understand it, the lighthouse is a family organization, I guess. So all year round.
Then
How was it discovered that he was not there? Just someone checking when the lights weren't up?
Yes, one of the shipyard dock workers had been instructed to head out there, and they found it empty.
And do you know the name of that gentleman?
I can find it.
That would be most helpful. Stalloway,
Yes.
you're a woman of great insight. Do you have any inclination of a good place to start? What do the spirits tell you?
She kind of takes a step back a moment. Her hand rubs her neck a little as if a little uncomfortable. And she kind of goes into herself to gather any insight that she might have on the situation.
Interesting. Let's take a look at your character sheet. What do you have? You have the talent medium, which allows you to use observation when fishing for clues. Yes. Without having a full-blown seance, how do you imagine Miss Dalloway would contact whatever she would contact to inquire about this?
I imagine she, without having a full seance, it is said that mediums have a spirit guide with them at all times. I believe she would get in touch with that spirit guide and ask for its assistance and its insight if there's anything that she needs to know about the situation.
Okay, roll me observation. No successes. You can push it again if you'd like. You just check a condition and re-roll. Entirely up to you.
I'll take it.
Okay. You reach out to your spirit guide and the spirits around you, and you pull from the energy here in the house. sort of just casting a general question, one of those like, are there any spirits in the house with us tonight? Sort of things. Is there any guidance here? And you don't get a response, but you smell a whiff of perfume.
The spirits seem to be quiet tonight, but there is a hint of something in the air. You can see her kind of smell the air a bit. It smells like perfume. I can't quite place it.
Floral or spicy?
Floral. With a hint of sea spray.
Interesting.
Sounds like a Bath and Beyond candle.
It does.
Haunted floral.
But it would be like champagne sea spray rose.
Yeah.
I could just imagine like a Bath and Beyond worker just spraying next to Virginia.
Yeah. It's called Scottish Coastline.
Ew, get it away.
Oh my lord.
Well, I suppose the first thing to do is to go out and take a look ourselves. Unless anyone objects or has a better idea.
Say tonight, maybe hitting up the taverns where this guy drank. Get a few drinks into him, and he'll start telling you everything. And maybe he spread some rumors of his own about what was going on or what he thought was going on.
Very good point. How about this? We go examine the lighthouse now, head back to the port this evening, and you can go ply people with drink.
Rub elbows.
Sounds reasonable.
Now you all would know that though a little disused, Covencrest Manor does have a library. There's also the full resources of the city of New Arkham at your disposal, a constabulary. Winifred, you would know specifically, though there's not an official capacity here. Perhaps someone that you may know in your larger academic circle, like the third tier circle. There is a woman here by the name of Eliza Rowe, who fancies herself as the unofficial historian. Someone that you can go to for local lore. Miss Dalloway, you whether for good reasons or for avoidance, you would know that the local priest of New Arkham, his name is Father Malcolm Hale. And Enzo, for whatever reason you decide to tell us or not, you are keenly aware of the New Arkham Journal, which is the local newspaper, and I'll say you know several people that work there. Whether they are contacts or people you avoid, that's entirely up to you.
Knock him out, Enzo.
For whatever reason.
Fuck him up. Make him talk.
You're probably people that sit and share drinks with every once in a while.
Perfect. So you do have several places you can go, several avenues of exploration here for you to do so. Yeah. Where would you guys like to go first, if anywhere?
I would like to go look at the lighthouse, if everyone's down for that. I think that's a good starting point. And I say that as Harold. I would like to go to the lighthouse, if you guys are all down for that.
Yes. I believe getting eyes on the location will benefit us for further investigation.
Mr. GM, narrator, storyteller, dungeon master here. Is there a place here in the Crest Manor, a place that has like don't you laugh at me, fuck you, that has like investigation tools or like anything that can kind of help us utilize to kind of have a better understanding of like this, like a scene, like a detective or something.
Funny you should ask.
I know, I'm
Paul.
hilarious.
It's perfect timing. So there is actually a function of the game called advantages. Now normally the advantage scene takes place when traveling from the headquarters to the location. Fortunately, that's 20 minutes away. So the way advantage works is you describe a scene in which you do something that will give you an advantage on this mystery. The advantage lasts for the entire mystery. And what it will do is it will give you a +2 bonus so that's 2 additional dice, +2 bonus to specific scenes. So for example, using what you said, you could search the house for investigatory items, a magnifying glass, whatever you think you may need to help you investigate better.
I would look for like just hand tools to kind of help identify things like magnifying glass, some brushes or whatever, any kind of, I don't know, the 1800s, man, like any whatever detective tools they had available at 1800s, but in a more medical sense that can utilize on non-medical personnel. And in the library, if there is any historical books or any kind of records of strategies and dark things or terrible things that happened in the lighthouse, or maybe news articles would be better, I don't know, but like any kind of documentation that showcases historical badness.
Okay, so I will give you one of those things.
Damn it.
You only get one advantage. So your advantage will be quote unquote detective tools, which, to answer your question as to what existed, nothing.
Oh shit.
The constabulary of the 1800s was kind of like, that guy's dead. There wasn't a lot of detecting happening, despite what Sherlock Holmes may have you believe.
Is what I was going on.
Yeah, he just used deductive reasoning and had no tools to do so.
Okay.
Yes, so you are a smart man, and you find whatever tools you need. Prosthetic gloves, right? Scalpels, things of that nature, things that you may have in a doctoral setting that can be used in a crime scene. Whatever tools I need for detectiveness. Perfect.
Wait, you're
So that is what you find as
I didn't know you were reading.
Of course I am. That is what you find as your advantage. Does anyone else have an advantage they think they might have discovered here?
I am going to save mine for later.
Okay. The advantage lasts the entire mystery. So it is something that stays with you. Yeah. It's not a one-time use situation. It's an ongoing +2 to specific scenarios in this one mystery.
Absolutely. In that case, Mrs. Blaylock has been carrying journals from members of the society who were avid at hunting down beasts and monsters and things of that nature. That is the sum of her book collection that she gathered and brought with her. So she will be leafing through that as we are making our way to the dinghy and looking for matters nautical, any sort of creatures or mysteries of a nautical nature.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. So yeah, you can put that in your advantage right in your character sheet. Virginia and Enzo, do you have any advantages you might have?
I was thinking perhaps a notebook of some sort or her sketchbook. Anything that she could do any kind of automatic drawing or writing in.
How does that give you advantage?
That's a great question.
You can have that. I just need to know how it gives you, how it helps you.
I'll think about that. Give me a moment.
Okay. Enzo, do you have any advantages you can apply here.
His advantages are going to be basically rifling the house for some of the finer liquors to use that to apply when making the rounds at the taverns and asking questions.
Okay, all right. I will absolutely take that. So you can put, fine beverages as your advantage.
I forgot. I have semi-fine wine. I forgot about that.
Yeah, you do. Automatic writing is actually a skill. It's actually a talent in this game as well. Yeah, you think about your advantage, and we can come back to that scene. Cool. So you guys head off to the lighthouse. Let me see here. Let me pull up my lighthouse notes. As you crest the final hill overlooking the rocky coast, the lighthouse emerges from the swirling mists of the sea. Towering and stark against the sky, its blackened stone walls rise high above the jagged cliffs of New Arkham. Standing defiant against the wind that howls like a restless spirit, ivy and creeping vines claw their way up its side, and the stones are pitted and weather-worn, marked by years of salt and storm. The lighthouse itself has an eerie presence, its tall cylindrical form tapering upward to a glass-walled lantern room that sits like a crown on its summit. The massive lamp inside, normally a beacon of safety, stands cold and darkened, its lens smeared with grime and salt crust. Its erratic flashes are gone, leaving only the hollow echo of the wind as it whistles through the broken shutters and around the tower. No light shines from within, only darkness looms, like an empty eye glazing blankly out to sea. The doorway at the base of the lighthouse stands ajar, one side slightly off its hinges, swinging lazily with the breeze, creaking with each gust like a sigh of something old and forgotten. Half buried in the gravel outside are scattered belongings, a worn lantern with its wick still soaked in oil, a coil of rope stained with mud, and a tin cup that rolls back and forth with the tide, half filled with brackish water. It's as if Elijah Pruitt stepped outside one night, set these objects down, and vanished into the storm without a trace. What do you do as you arrive at the lighthouse?
Going to head up to the building. And as I go, I'm looking for any sort of signs of disturbed ground or any indication of perhaps water pooled up from a excessively large wave that may have caught him and ripped him off the rock.
Go ahead and roll me investigation. One success. You look around here, and unfortunately, everything seems to be what you would expect. There are like large pools of standing water, only because it is a craggy, rocky place, and there have been storms the last few nights. So even if there weren't large waves, the water would have pooled up because of the storm. But the fact that you still see debris that like the lantern the lighthouse keeper would have carried with him on here. Likely the entire island wasn't like awash with a large wave, because those two would have been carried out to sea. You still see like bric-a-brac here. You see like a chair that would have been washed away with a wave, just sort of sat here as well. There are things that would have been gone had it been washed out.
I will continue on up to the building and give other folks their
yeah. What is everyone else doing?
Like to say that no matter what, I'm kind of letting everybody do their thing, but Enzo is making sure that if any door needs to be opened, if anybody needs to go anywhere, he goes in first.
What a gentleman.
I think Harrow will follow behind, just observing, and he's not really looking for anything in the outdoors. He is kind of like peering, but he's more interested on what's inside, and kind of once he steps inside, look for specific things. But I don't know if we're technically in there yet. So
okay, Miss Dalloway, are you doing anything?
Before Enzo opens any doors or goes in, She would place her hand on the doorknob, one on the doorknob, one on the door, just to kind of sense if there's any disruptive energy coming from inside.
Interesting. Are you doing anything special to do this, or are you just sort of getting a general vibe check?
General vibe check.
Okay, go ahead and roll me observation.
Can I do one thing before
Yeah.
we have come up the hill? Could I have picked up the cup and I'd like to smell it to try to see if there's any remnant of what was in it.
Ooh. You know what? You got one success in your investigation. You can detect the faintest scent of juniper.
Interesting. Gin Man. Got it.
Miss Dalloway, unfortunately, you are clouded here. You place your hand on the you said the doorknob, the door frame?
Both.
You place your hand on the door, and you try to get a sense for anything touching the veil, as it were. And you are almost overcome with the not like the feeling of like dread and death, but like the fact that there is a history here of death. In that, like, you heard his wife died here. You're feeling like familial ties have died here. Generations of people have died here. You can feel, before the lighthouse and this rocky outcropping was here, ships dashing along the rocky coast. So you feel that, like, death is ever present here, but not, like, malevolently. You just have a general vibe that death has occurred here. The same kind of thing that would happen if, like, you walked a battlefield.
Got bad vibes, man.
Bad vibes.
Sure does.
Paul, to answer your question, juniper is a berry, and it's one of the prime ingredients in gin. It's what you smell when you smell gin. That or pine trees.
Oh, I always thought that was like,
Strega.
yeah, I thought that was pine. Is that not pine?
It's
Or-
not.
Pine is Strega,
Oh,
and it is
jeez.
foul.
It's juniper. That's that. If you drink gin and say it tastes like pine trees, that's kind of what it. That's kind of the juniper berry. Yeah. Cool. So I'm assuming that Miss Dalloway, as you sense this, everyone can sort of enter the building.
Yes.
Inside, the narrow spiral staircase curls tightly up the tower, each step worn smooth by countless climbs. The walls are lined with chipped paint and rusted fixtures, and the air is heavy with the scent of mildew and damp stone. As you ascend, your footfalls echo in the empty space, blending with the rhythmic crash of waves against the cliffs below, a constant reminder of the precarious drop just outside these fragile walls. What are you all doing inside the lighthouse?
Harold would be definitely like start investigating and looking very diligently to is it messy? Does anything look like it's misplaced? Does it look like there was any kind of like struggle or anything like that?
Go ahead and roll me investigation. And if you'd like to use your advantage, you can have a bonus +2.
Okay. Investigation +2. Summit. No. Sheesh! Let's go, bitch. Let's fucking go. I'm a fucking genius.
I love it. I love it.
Are there criticals in this system, or is it just like a lot of successes or anything?
There's just a lot of successes. So the successes, the way they work is like you get more stuff. Some things will take like 2 successes or more successes. It's rare that happens. But then other times, let me double check here. We did investigation. So there are certain things like investigation. So it says you can use investigation to search a room, understand what happened at a crime scene, examine a dead body, and find out what was obscured. If you succeed, the GM, me, will provide you with clues. If you roll more than required, the GM decides whether you find more clues, understand the context, or simply enjoy the satisfaction of a job well done.
Oh, damn it. You better not give me that last one.
Oh, man. For sure, it's that last one. So
I'm critical Mike now.
What are you? Are you just sort of? Sorry. Are you
Yeah.
in the light? Are you at the top of the lighthouse tower? Is that where you were going? Where
I'm in the
are
base.
you in this?
I'm in the
Okay.
base of the lighthouse, and I'm
You're in the
looking-
house part.
Yeah. And I'm
Okay.
particularly looking for like like not necessarily struggle, but like shifting around of a like something's moving something around.
Okay. Fantastic. You move through the house, sort of looking, trying to decipher what is like windswept, what is blown around from the storm. Is there anything here that like is out of place for the ramshackledness that you see here? And you see that several things do seem to be in disarray. Like you do see like the windows have blown open, some drapery is hanging loose. You attribute that to the storm for sure. But you see a few things that strike you as odd. The first thing you find, of course, on a desk, a little bit wet, is a journal, a worn leather-bound journal. You also see on that same desk, still a little bit wet, you see a map, and it seems to be hand-drawn, whether by Elijah or someone else, you're not entirely sure. But it does seem to be depicting the like local surroundings, as far as you can tell. You're not a map guy, but you do see it vaguely follows the coastline in the general area. And you see a strange, creepy doll sat
No,
on a
fuck
chair,
that.
on a rocking chair. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick that shit down to the ground. No, strange, creepy doll. Is the doll like when you say creepy? Like, am I feeling like this bitch is about to jump and kill me like Chucky's? Or like
No, it seems to be like a sack doll.
Oh,
It is
God.
like it's like tied like a knot at the top of the head, like it was a sack, more or
it's like
less.
an evil Cabbage Patch Kid, basically.
Yeah, you see it knotted at the neck to like form a head, knotted at the waist to like separate torso, and like where legs would be. And you see that it's kind of like a threadbare, tattered set of clothing on it. It appears to be old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick up the journal. Like, in this sequential order, I'm gonna pick up the journal and kind of like look at it, and I'm gonna toss it over towards Winifred's direction. And like, Winifred, hey, book. I know you like books. There you go. Take a look at that one. Good catch. I'm gonna
That's what I
then.
was looking for. Excellent.
I'm gonna look at the map. If I look at the map, though, is there any distinguished like markings of like trying to focus on one particular area, or can I just not read this shit?
Well, before you get there, you walk across the floor towards
God.
these books, the book and the map, and you hear the regular moans and groans of an old house, but you hear a very loud creak as you step on one particular floorboard.
Oh, well, I'm gonna. I gotta look at the creek. You gotta look at that, right?
You got to look at the creek.
I'm gonna do one of those things where it's like, step forward, step back, step forward, step
absolutely
back.
does that.
And then I look down. Well, that's particular. And I just keep going.
You
It's
can-
creaking, Harold. It's creaking.
Yeah, that's poor
definitely
craftsmanship.
You don't have to keep creaking it.
Okay. My mistake.
you
Enzo, do you
can-
mind? And I like point at him because he's stronger than I am, and I can't even bend over right now. So
You can see that there is a little bit of a gap between this board and the next board, as if like the house has shifted and they weren't as close as they were. And as you step on it, you see that one of the nails is probably about a half an inch out of the floor.
Oh shit!
So like it's the board itself is rubbing on the nail.
Pull it up and just see if it's something hidey hole.
Yeah, no roll needed for our boxer friend. You just sort of reach down and very unceremoniously pull this thing up and sort of wrench the nail out with it. And you see that the two nails that would have been at the end of the board, one of them is missing entirely. And you can see that this one seems to be cut. It's like it was pulled out and is cut along the bottom, like it was ripped out. And you see that underneath this has the groove of someone who has been like lifted this panel out many times, hence the squeak. There is a small hook and a key dangling from it.
Like a mounted hook
I'm sorry?
with the like a mounted hook with
Yes,
the key on
yeah,
it?
like where you'd hang your keys,
Okay.
but under the floor for some reason.
What the fuck?
Yeah. There's more than me.
The moment you touch the key, Enzo, everyone, actually, yeah, anyone paying attention to Enzo would see him kind of go a little rigid. Nothing to be concerned about. But Enzo, you loose this key from the hook, and you see what you imagine to be the same lighthouse, the same area, and you see a woman walking the cliffs, carrying a lantern. Waves crashing against the rocks, so she's walking like the cliff that overlooks the water where the lighthouse is. You see her walking along the cliffside, staring almost longingly into the water, and you are overcome with a sense of sorrow. And then you flash back to normal, and you are holding a brass key.
Explain this to the rest of the group that I just had some sort of strange vision. Woman. I'll describe the area as best I can in case they want to investigate it. And then, hand the key off to probably Harold since he's closest.
As you hand off the key and explain this, you note out of the corner of your eye that there is a small something white sort of catches your eye deeper inside the floor in that same hidey hole.
So I'm going down for that one as well. I would like to remain very vigilant. That there's no, I don't know, like a bear trap waiting for me or something sinking in the mud.
There is not a bear trap. Fear not. So you hand this off, right, and then you kind of dig in, probably like elbow deep into this, and you sort of root around in the darkness, and you feel paper. And you begin to pull this paper up, and you see a bundle of old, what you imagine to be letters that are tied together with twine. Despite being underneath the house, they are relatively dry. They don't seem to be damp at all. They are pulled out. You have a bundle of letters.
To Winifred.
Say that again.
Just to Winifred.
Okay. So Winifred, you have that. Harold, I assume you continue across the room to get the book and the map as well.
And the doll.
Oh, you're getting the doll too? Okay. All right.
Now that I've got the book and the letters, I'm going to go sit at the kitchen table and
Perfect.
settle.
Perfect. You settle in. Miss Dalloway, what are you doing as all of this investigation is happening?
I would have asked Harold to see the doll. Again, doing a general vibe check of that doll. It seems like a weird place to have something just hanging around like that.
Yeah, I actually, Harold wouldn't keep the doll. He would pick it up very cautiously, by the way. He'd be like using like his gloves and just like a pair of tongs and just pick it up. And he would like move it over to Virginia and be like, I feel like this is something you'd enjoy.
Thank you, Harold.
And then he just kind of lets it go and then shimmies away.
Outstanding. What are you doing with the doll?
She's going to first look at it, turn it around, upside down, inspecting all areas of the doll. And from there, she would hold it to her chest, like to her heart, and just kind of hold on to it, closing her eyes, seeing if she can sense any kind of energy coming from the doll, things of that nature.
Go ahead and roll me observation.
Man, Not today.
That's rough. You
You can push it and take a
yeah,
condition.
you can take a condition,
You know, I might
or you can
just do that.
You can take the L. You know.
I've been taking a lot of them today.
That is true.
I will push.
Okay. So you're going to go ahead and re-roll with no condition added on there yet. So go ahead and re-roll. Hey, there you go. And then, because you are rolling observation, which is a mental task, you can go ahead and check one of the mental conditions. Angry, frightened, or hopeless are your options.
I just get to pick anyone.
You can pick one of them, yeah. And if you'd like to
Alright.
tell me why you picked that one, you can do so.
Hopeless.
Hopeless. Okay. Why?
Yeah. I think a mixture of feeling all that death from before and not getting a lot from what she's been trying to sense. It's got her feeling a little down, a little hopeless.
Okay.
So sad, yeah.
Yeah.
You you hold this thing close to you, and you feel a chill. You as soon as you like press it to your chest, you sort of feel a chill that sort of like, you know, it could be like the wind, that sort of chill that makes you like do that little shiver down your spine, right? You feel that happen. And there's something strange about the doll, the way it like compresses against your chest, like it should be like straw filled or something, and there's something about it that just feels weird. You know, as someone who probably has a couple of dolls in their house for various reasons, you feel strange about this, the way it like crunches. And as you take it away, you see you perhaps didn't notice it before, but on the chest, like the shirt, as it were, you see what at first looked like an upside down U, like just a symbol on the shirt. You realize is a horseshoe, an upside down horseshoe. It's like sewn on there.
Now, would I recognize that as any kind of symbol with meaning?
You don't recognize it as any symbol of meaning in your neck of the woods. However, if you actually, here's what I'll say. In general, a symbol of luck is what you would kind of know that as. But specifically in your neck of the woods, nothing comes to mind. Yeah, the doll does give you a little bit of a shudder, and you do note that symbol is on there.
I would show the symbol to Winifred. She is a woman of the books. Perhaps it is something that she has come across in any of her studies.
Okay.
Where does this doll appear? What's its origin appear to be? What culture?
Homemade.
Homemade.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine this belonged to his son when he was a child, or perhaps predates it. Upside down horseshoe. Now, typically, you would hang it over a door right side up to be a token of luck and bar evil spirits from entering. The iron used in them is good for repelling spirits in the writings of several cultures. But in this case, what would a reversed horseshoe on a doll indicate for this area?
You can go ahead and roll me a learning.
Okay. Let's see. Learning. Oh, and I get the +2 because of my advantage, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Learning bonus 2.
Do I check off the advantage that I used it?
Nope, it's fine.
Okay.
Learning 3, hot damn. Okay,
What
cool.
if it's learning?
So you confirm that it, yeah, the skills. So you confirm that this is 100% luck. This is a good luck totem. Strangely enough, this doll is kind of creepy and weird, but perhaps it belonged to a son, an ancestor, a relative, etc. You know that not only is that would it be hung over a door, it is also a common symbol in seaworthy vessels, sailors. It can be a common tattoo among sailors for luck on the seas, specifically. So this perhaps being some sort of token, either maybe made by his wife, made by a distant relative, but this seems to be some sort of good luck.
It's a shame his son didn't have this on him when he was conscripted. In this case, given the setting and the materials used, I would say this is a token of fortune, a good luck doll, as it were. And I will hold it back out to Virginia.
She's gonna take the doll back and, perhaps it'll grant us some luck.
Perhaps give it a squeeze and see if there's anything inside it.
Okay. She's gonna ruffle around the belly of the doll and squeeze it and...
Again, there is a strange crunch that should be hay, and judging by how old it is, the hay should be, softened by now. But there is a little bit of a crinkle.
Does anyone have a knife or maybe some scissors?
I whip out my scalpel. It's like, does something need to be cut?
Do you mind performing some surgery on this doll?
Oh, Virginia, I never mind. And then I'm going to take the have my hand gestured out for you to give me the doll. I'm not going to take it from you. And then I take the doll, I'll lay it on the table, position it as if I'm about to do surgery, crack my knuckles, and what looks like he's about to be a very precise cut, he kind of coughs and sneezes a little and just jabs it into the doll and kind of roughly rips it down the middle.
Go ahead and roll me a medicine check.
All right.
No, I'm just fucking. I'm fucking with you.
You sure? I will. I could miss. I can stab
do
my
not
eye.
like that.
It's
What
a
if I
straw
can
doll.
match?
It's
I'm
a
just
straw
saying.
doll. It's legitimately a doll this time. You cut open. This sack doll. And you see that it is mostly stuffed with straw, but there is a rolled up piece of parchment inside of its chest cavity.
Huh. I'm going to use my medical tongs and just kind of grab and pull it out. Am I able to just pull it out? Okay, cool. And then I'm going to walk over to Virginia again and be like, here's your prize. And I'm going to just drop it on her hands.
She takes the parchment and immediately opens it to see what it could be.
You unfurl this small piece of parchment, and written inside are the words, "Keep the lantern hidden. She must never find it."
Eerie.
And so while all of this is happening, what are you doing inside the house?
Watching them do their thing, seeing if I'm needed, checking, behind doors and under cabinets for anything that might pose a risk, looking out windows.
Okay. Do me a favor. Go ahead and roll me an investigation.
We've had out there for a minute. Working both ways for me, apparently.
Yeah.
He said to roll for investigation.
Roll for investigation.
Oh, did I? Sorry, I didn't.
He was saying,
sorry.
you, Mike.
Oh,
Come
my
on.
bad. I didn't hear the beginning part
I
of that.
just love how he's repeat that again, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm good.
I didn't hear that. It's zero investigation. Well, on the bright side, as you look through windows and out of the house, you don't see anyone creeping up on you. No one's trying to get you. No need for vigilance here. But as you move through and kind of move doors, open doors and close doors and look around, you do see that there is what is the bedroom. because there's a bed in it and it's a room. You do see there is a locked trunk, or you presume it to be locked. And you see a scattering of papers on the floor of the bedroom as well. Yeah.
Winifred know that there are more papers to be found, and I'm going to find something that's sturdy enough to break open that chest.
Outstanding. Winifred's day. Books, papers, notes, journals.
This is everything I dreamed.
I love how we're just like, here's a book, here's some paper, here's a apartment.
Yes, here's all the things.
Read, transcribe, and tell us.
It's almost like every time she gets another piece of paper in front of her, you can almost see like her getting more and more lively and excited, and that mask of or that wall of propriety just starts kind of crumbling a little bit as she's poring over these documents.
I imagine there's that level of excited ADD where like you're in the middle of a tome and someone's like, found a bunch of papers, and they hand you them and the tome is gone. It was never there, and it's now all about the papers. Yeah, for sure.
She's just going through everything, and like she'll remember she had something, and she's like cross-referencing and just going to town on these notes.
We cut over to Harold. So Harold, you were looking at the map. Excuse me. You were looking over at the map. You wanted to know if it was the local area, and if it was marked any symbols. You take a close look at this, and you do see that it is the local area. It is also marked with certain symbols. You see that certain areas of the cliff are circled, and there are notes such as voices here and lights seen here. And there is a circle near a sea cave opening that is marked with a question mark. You also see that there are strange runes or sigils that are sketched around the lighthouse on the map, and in areas marked with random circles, possibly hinting at some sort of connection to something. You're not entirely sure.
The circles are within the lighthouse, you said?
Yeah, like there's certain areas like on the lighthouse island that are marked with like a strange symbol, or near the cliffside of the lighthouse marked with a symbol. Again, this is a very like crude hand-drawn map.
Yeah. Based off of, well, first thing, do these symbols mean anything to me? Like, are they recognizable in any way from my? I assume with my experience as a field medicine in the past with other society missions, maybe I don't know if I've cross-referenced these before, but do these symbols mean anything to me?
They don't mean anything to you in a medical sense. So you haven't seen anything about this, but you do, I will say you are a smart man, or at least you present to be a smart man.
Okay.
And
right.
you do know that this does look like it could possibly be in Miss Dalloway's wheelhouse.
Okay, got it. Before I give Miss Dalloway another thing, am I near any of the circles marked inside of the lighthouse? Is like any of the circles around the house area, or are they all above?
So yes. So there's like a circle, like with like a line, like a circle, like as if pointing to something. Like with a symbol pointing at the lighthouse. There's another symbol pointing at the house. So like you're in the house, and a symbol is denoting the house, kind of thing.
But nothing specific. It's just saying.
No, yeah,
symbol
it's
house.
not. It's not like
Okay.
in this room there is this symbol, kind of thing, right?
Okay. I look at the map and I just go, huh? I found a map. It's definitely a map of the local area. There are some circles that is over by the cliff, and apparently there's like a cave that he didn't know it was a cave. So maybe he wrote this because he's trying to remember it's a cave. But this guy clearly can't remember, so he needs to remind himself with a map and symbols. But hey, Virginia, there seems to be little doodles here that you might like. Joanna. And I kind of go like, you know, like, and I kind of like shove it in your direction.
Virginia walks over to him, takes a look, brushes her hand over the symbols to see what she can see.
So right off the bat, you know a couple of them just off the top of your head. The first of which, you know, there is a soul rune. So this is a Norse rune. It represents the sun and light. And you know that in your realm, this is used to ward off malicious entities, often tied to darkness and or curses. This symbol is pointing at the lighthouse, and you see it again somewhere on the cliffs. You see it near where like there are certain areas on the map that say like strange lights, and then you'll see that symbol like almost like a period at the end of that that line. You also know that there is the Kenaz rune, I think that's how you say it, which is a symbol of fire. I could be mispronouncing that. Who knows? And these are also near location, like similar locations to where like voices were heard, or where it says like spirit seen or person seen. And you know off the top of your head, another one is the mourner's knot, which is a mourning sigil. And you see that this is near the lighthouse and near the cave. And you see also a compass rose. But you think that might just be a compass rose? You're not entirely sure. There are a few more symbols that you're not familiar with. There are 2 more symbols that you are not familiar with, which you can go ahead and give me a learning roll. Nope. You'll have to research those in a library or in some kind of book, or ask around about those symbols.
Harold kind of like hovers over. Is like, what's it say? What is it?
She's gonna go over all the symbols she is aware of, and explain, their meaning, what they're used for. But when it comes to the last 2, perhaps we could check out the library, or maybe the local priest might have an understanding of what these symbols could be.
And so this one, and he points up to the soul rune, is on the lighthouse and the cliff, and it's supposed to be what, ward off thingies, bad things.
Yes, ward off malicious entities or spirits.
Do we think that something was trying to get in the lighthouse?
It could be. Enzo did see something, a woman. Perhaps it was a spirit.
As
this
I'm
point-
reading, at one point, I get up and go into the kitchen and just one-handedly like look for the kettle and put it on with some water and pull a teacup and a small saucer out of a pack on my hip. And some loose tea and a diffuser to brew the tea in. And she's just doing all this one-handed while she's reading.
And you're doing this without looking at it, right?
Yeah, she's not even looking at what she's doing. It's almost just like muscle memory.
Harold's just watching, like, what the fuck?
Having a fanny pack for tea on the go is the most British thing you could possibly do.
And they do exist.
They do.
I believe that.
They're awesome. I've seen them. It's like a picnic on your pouch. It's crazy.
It's like a little holster that sits on your side.
What a world we live in. What a world we live in. Enzo, you were going to say something.
I think at this point, Enzo, everyone's relaying all the information they're getting, right? Like out loud.
Yeah.
At this point, he's gonna kind of get a harebrained idea. And he's gonna march to the top of the lighthouse. I'm gonna carefully examine the light itself, the light mechanism. It's flame and mirrors at this point.
It would be. Did you pass the key off to anybody?
I have it.
Yeah, I get it to Harold.
Okay. You get to the top of the excuse me. You get to the top where the light room would be, and you see that there is a large brass lock on the door that matches the key that was hidden under the floor. It is currently locked, just for the record. Stream cat.
Sushi, thank you.
Aww.
I will probably inform. I'm gonna inform everybody else, and I'm gonna be like, if that needs to be unlocked, let me be the one to do it. I got a bad feeling.
Absolutely, but hold off unlocking it for a few moments. I have concerns.
Harold.
You said there was a message not to keep the lantern hidden. She must not find it. This and Miss Dalloway, you caught the whiff of perfume.
Yes.
Would someone go look in the bedroom and see if perhaps there is something that has his wife's possessions in it? Look for a bottle of perfume. And Miss Dalloway, if you would, smell the perfume and see if it is familiar to you.
Absolutely.
Her spirit might be lingering here.
You head to the room, I assume. You see the same locked trunk that Enzo was trying to open, which we'll get to in a second. And you do see that there is like an armoire kind of situation that and a small dresser. You open these things. The dresser contains most of what you imagine to be Elijah's clothing, and the armoire is has barely anything in it. But among those things are a few dresses that you imagine would have belonged to his wife. There doesn't seem to be any perfume or anything of that kind.
Can I weirdly smell the dresses?
Yes. You can weirdly smell the dresses. They do not smell like the whiff of perfume in which you smelled previously.
Enzo, do you have a way of opening this chest at all?
Brute force.
Go for it. Roll me I want to say it's just straight up force. It is. Roll me a force.
A big one.
Wait, is Enzo trying to do this barehanded?
I mean,
Hopefully searching for something like, flat and durable that I could use. I mean, instead of just kicking the thing
Oh
open.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say like Harold would try to help and try to find.
yeah,
something.
there's enough stuff around here that you can find some sort of makeshift pry bar. So go ahead and we'll pretend you didn't roll force and roll force with a bonus of +1 for a makeshift item.
Did I fail an 8 dice? Oh my god.
That rule never happened, so don't worry about it.
Jason, it's rough being on the other side of the dice in Free League, huh? It's so much nicer when you control your player's fate and not when the dice control yours.
Dude, that's 9 dice.
Now you can push and take a
odds
condition.
of that are terrible.
You can take a condition.
I'm
Yeah,
definitely
push.
All right. So go ahead and re-roll.
I'm going to become exhausted.
So
No, I marked the condition after, right?
correct. Yep.
All right.
And you still get the +1 from the pry bar. There she
go.
is. There she is. So you
One still.
you get a pry bar in there and you sort of pop this lock off of this thing. Inside, you find a weathered oil lantern. It is old and tarnished. You see that the lantern's wick has not been burned for quite some time. However, you see that as soon as you... actually, do you touch it?
You missed me there. Think about it. He would probably just bust it open and let everybody else look at it and only pick things up if he needed to.
Okay. So you bust it open. You see an old, tarnished lantern, and then you also see a battered leather book in there.
More books.
We're gonna go through all of this stuff and discover that it's just like his YA novel he was writing.
He actually invented sci-fi. It's crazy. Science barely existed. Yeah. So you see this book and you see the lantern. And Miss Dalloway, you are also there.
I'm gonna pick up the book first
Okay.
and kind of peek through it, see if there's anything quickly of note. And then if there is not, I would call for Winifred and hand it to her.
Okay. You take a quick look. This is a battered leather-bound book, and it seems to be full of tales from a sailor aboard a ship called the Beacon's Heart.
Okay. And then, having handed that off to Winifred to examine further, I would have picked up the lantern.
Perfect. As you pick up the lantern, or as you bend over to look at the lantern, you notice the same thing, right? You can see the wick doesn't look like it has been burned for quite some time. However, as you pick it up, you see that the lantern wick bursts into flame, and it begins to glow a almost sickly blue-green. And it emanates this light out into the house.
Do we all see this?
You all see this.
Do I feel anything, like, energy-wise?
You can roll me observation.
Darn it.
Unfortunately, you don't get any, you don't get any sense, right? Obviously, this is strange. That was a dry wick that hadn't been burned in some time. And you see it burst into flame, and the flame is blue and green, which none of those things are, normal, as it were. So obviously, this strikes you as strange. There is some sort of otherworldly connection here. And as you all, as all of you are drawn to this because of a beacon of of blue and green just sort of lit up the house, you all notice Virginia start to sway a little bit, as if almost rhythmically, as if swaying to a song. Virginia, the room vanishes in a swirl of smoke and mist, and you find yourself standing on the edge of the cliffs, a storm raging around you. The wind howls like a chorus of mourning voices, and the rain stings your skin like needles. Above you, the lighthouse stands tall, its beams sweeping across the water, but it flashes erratically, illuminating the storm-tossed sea in brief, frantic bursts. In those flashes of light, the world distorts, as if reality itself is warping and tearing at the seams. In one moment, the beam of the lighthouse sweeps across the sea and reveals a ghostly shipwreck. A galleon of blackened wood, torn sails, and skeletal figures clinging to its side as it groans and creaks in the waves. The ship seems impossibly close, as if it's about to be smashed against the cliffs. But with the next flash of light, it vanishes, leaving only the swirling waters behind. And then you see her. A woman, in a long tattered dress, standing at the edge of the cliffs, her face obscured by the wind-tangled strands of her hair, and she holds a lantern, just like the one in your hand. And its light is a haunting mirror image, blue-green, ethereal, and unnatural. The woman turns, and for a fleeting moment, her eyes lock with yours. Hollow, sorrowful, and filled with a deep rage that seems to pierce through your very soul. The woman's mouth moves, but no words come out. Only a deafening silence, and heavy and oppressive. And then the silence is broken by a voice, disembodied and echoing through the storm. A voice like 100 whispers overlapping, speaking directly into your mind. Return the light. Bring it back. The debt must be paid. Suddenly the vision shifts, and you are no longer standing on the cliffs, but floating beneath the storm-tossed waves. The lantern's light casts a faint glow through the water, revealing ghostly faces swimming around you, their mouths open in silent screams. The current pulls at you, dragging you deeper into the depths, and as you see the lantern in your hand sinking down into the abyssal trench, a gaping maw that seems to stretch endlessly into the darkness below. The lantern's glow flickers, fighting against the pull of the dark waters, and then a shadowy figure lunges from the depths. A hand, skeletal and dripping with seaweed, grabs your wrists. The grip is cold, unyielding, and filled with an overwhelming sensation of despair and regret. As the hand pulls you downward, the vision fades, and you are left with a final image burned into your mind. The face of the woman, now fully revealed, pale and twisted in anguish, her mouth open wide as if in a scream. And that's where we end episode 1 of The Witching Hour. The end. Hell yeah.
No, not the end.
Spooky
To be
shit.
continued.
Spooky shit. Episode 1 in the bag.
You know what's fucked? When you said the voice line, my fucking Notion like shut down, and
I
like
love that.
I couldn't write the notes. I'm like, oh, I'm done. Like,
Nice.
I love that. I love that. Perfect. Hell yeah. That was episode 1. This was called Covencrest Manor, episode 1. Episode 2, I think I've already named them, is called Lanterns something? Something. It's called Lanterns something, that's for sure. But you can tune in next week to find out. Yeah, let's go around, do our introductions, and then we're going to get the hell out of here and do our after show. And if you guys want access to that after show, it's available over on our Patreon, probably within the next couple of days, if not early next week. So yeah, check that out. While you're down there clicking on that Patreon link, make sure you join us in the Discord, be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. But for now, let's go around, do our outros, and we will start on the top of my screen with Cinda. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
My name is Cinda. You can find me on Instagram at WitchLord3. And, I'm not really up to much. Just my little witchy self and doing crafts. So if you like crafts and witchcraft, then you can find me there.
Hell yeah. Hopping over to the right on my screen, Katie, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
So I am Katie Downey, aka Goblin Katie. You can find me on all the socials at Goblin Katie and here on Twitch. I appear on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on the Players and Book stream, which is a wonderful group of people. It is Dr. Sumerian as our DM, myself, Jen Kretschmer, Lauren Urban, and Latia Jaquise, and we are doing a 5th edition game of Dungeons and Dragons set in a homebrew world, and it is super fun. So you can find that there, and you can learn more about it at Players and Books, or Players and Book on socials.
Hell yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Jumping over across the way to Jason, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
This mic is working properly.
It is. You're good.
Jason, I'm going to have to get that fixed. I run a tiny wee little podcast called Rollmageddon. Me and a bunch of very rude people do a bunch of not safe for work podcasts, mostly Free League lately, because I've just kind of fallen in love with their systems, all of them. And we also do a Pathfinder campaign. And one of our players ran a nice tiny little Cats of Cthulhu, which is where your cat's fighting against the dark powers. That was fun.
so
But
cute.
just like, yeah, she murdered it. I'm not going to say it. That's a spoiler. Never mind. In either case, if you're looking for our stuff, we're at Rollmageddon, ROLLMAGEDDO. If you do a search for it, it's out there and it'll lead you all to all our stuff because we're the only people with the name that's even close to that, so Google won't try to autocorrect you to something bizarre.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I encourage you, go check them out. I am an avid listener of actual plays, especially in podcast form, and I have been consistently listening to Rollmageddon for quite some time. They have a Tales from the Loop campaign that is ongoing. I think they just wrapped season 2, and they're working on season 3. They have a Coriolis campaign. An Alien campaign. I have consumed them all, and they actually play tested one of our very own Glenbrook games here on their podcast. So definitely go check them out. And last but not least, Paul, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? What are you up to?
Hey, yo, what up? My name is Paul. You can find me on In123 on all my socials. I don't do anything, so don't really go look. But you'll find me here on Thursdays playing this fun game. That's it. That's all I got.
Great table, by the way.
Yeah, super, super awesome. This was a blast. Players, thank you so much for being here. This is my second foray into Vaesen. I hope you enjoyed it. Viewers, thank you for watching. This is the inaugural episode. I think it's like a 6 to 8 week episode season. This one, and if you guys want more of that, let us know, and we'll plan season 2 and so on and so forth. But for now, that is it from us. We will see you guys next time. So from all of us to you, bye bye.